Have you ever fancied making some stainless steel halo effect lights for your boat on a curved surface? Here's how I did it on a Fairline Phantom 43. Very fiddly, but well worth the effort. So this is where the work begins. Here are the stainless steel letters as they have arrived. Very little work on these, in fact. Most of the work is on the acrylic letters, which I'll show you next. This is where the work starts. Here are the 10mm cloudy acrylic letters ready for processing. Make sure you mark out the correct side to drill and route. This is the side, in fact, that the stainless steel letters stick onto. So here we are ready to drill the holes. You'll see here that we have 10mm thick acrylic, and the smaller dots are where we're going to drill holes 3mm wide and about 7 to 8mm deep, leaving 2mm of undrilled acrylic for the LEDs to glow through. Holes for the LEDs have been drilled. Now the next step is to mark out the channel that the router is going to use. Here are some letters marked out ready for routing. You need to cut out obviously the black shaded bit. Probably about 5mm, possibly 6 is all you need, depending on the thickness of the backbone, which I'll explain later. Here we are ready to route. I'm using a Dremel plunge router, which actually isn't that expensive. Set up the letter so that the router isn't snagged by any clamps. Wear eye protection, because acrylic is nasty stuff if it gets in your eyes and can be very sharp, and ear protection. One letter's routed out. It's not a particularly quick process. This took about 15 to 20 minutes to do. It doesn't matter if the edges are not exactly smooth, because of course this is going to be covered by the stainless steel lettering, as you will see. Here are the LEDs glued into the holes using the rapid setting glue activated by the UV light. And here are the excess cables trimmed off. Suggest you solder the tips of the cables ready to solder onto the backbone wire. This is the glue I used to attach the LEDs to the acrylic. Absolutely brilliant, but don't get any on your fingers. Here is the backbone cable supplying the LEDs. This goes through the larger hole, which is in fact 5mm hole, going up each side of the routed cutout. The LEDs are individually soldered on to the backbone cables because of the required power supply. This is one that I finished earlier. As you can see, all the bare solder joints have been covered with liquid insulation. Really easy to put on, 2 coats, and that will insulate the cables from what will in fact be the next layer on top of this, which is metal. You will need to sand down the edges of the acrylic, as not very much sticks to it. I use a coarse sandpaper and then put a bead of the Evo stick white all-weather adhesive on Here is a bead of adhesive ready for pressing down the stainless steel face. Stainless steel face is now pressed onto the bead, and the excess sealer can be trimmed off when it's gone hard with a sharp blade. We could have used something really strong to bond the stainless steel to the acrylic, but the idea of using this sealer is that if we did get a problem in the future with one or two of the LEDs, we can slip a Stanley knife into the gap between the stainless and the acrylic, take off the faceplate and make a repair. So the sealer's been left overnight and ready for cleaning up with a sharp Stanley knife. The letter has been cleaned up, ready for the next stage of putting on the supports on the back of the letter. For the letter supports, I'm cutting 12.5mm fiberglass white tubing at 1 centimetre lengths to support the letters using a multi-tool. So these are the cut-off pieces of the fiberglass tube. I've put some dowel in the middle of it to screw to. This is a bit fiddly as the dowel may not necessarily fit the tubing, but Dremels will help. Cut off the excess dowel using a multi-tool. The wooden inserts give a good surface area for the glue on the letters, and you can actually then screw into the wooden bits inside the dowel to allow for the later removal of the letters if there is a problem. Glue the little studs onto the back of the letters using Permabond TA4246, and you need to sand the places on the acrylic where you glue to get this to bond well. Here are some that I've already done. Hopefully in the next 24 hours will be rock hard. Space is now thoroughly stuck to the back of the acrylic. Drill pilot holes in the wooden dowel ready for the screws. Carefully mark out where the letters go and drill the appropriate size holes for the screws and the cabling. Here is the wiring inside the boat bundled together and running to a waterproof junction box, which then goes on to the 12-volt supply in the boat. Note the screws holding in the letters with washers, which can therefore be removed to service the letters if they ever go wrong. Here is the 3-amp waterproof fuse box connecting into the 12-volt boat supply. You probably only actually need 2-amp fuses. Letters fitted, they look great even in the daylight, and this is illuminated again in the daylight. Here we are at dusk with the letters illuminated, posh enough now to moor the boat at Monaco. Enjoy!